This is how to weave a fairly small, round, cylindrical lavender basket. And this is what the finished product is going to look like. It has a twined base, and then we go over under continuous weave all the way up the sides, and then do a fairly simple over under rim. The first thing is to cut 4 flat oval 1/4 inch spokes with the curved side facing down, and there are 4 of them that are 30 inches long, and intersect them all at the center and just hold them down with a spoke weight. Then add 1 more spoke that's about 20 inches long, and just add it in one of the spaces here. And put your spoke weight on it to hold it down, because we want an odd number of spokes that we're going to be twining. So this is that odd number spoke, and you can leave this little end sticking out for the time being, but eventually you're going to cut it just a little bit shorter to kind of hide that end. And actually I could just cut it right now. Then we soak and take a piece like 3 or 4 feet long of number 2 round reed, and crease and bend it in the middle. I'm just going to take the middle of it and bend it, and I'm going to put it over the lowest, one of the lowest spokes in this circle, and hook it around one of those spokes like that, facing to the right. And I'm going to take the uppermost weaver, the one on the top, and loop it down and under the next spoke. So there's a bit of a half twist between these spokes. Then I'm going to take the uppermost weaver again and loop it down and under the next spoke. This is called twining. And I'm going to be twining around the whole bunch of spokes. And I'm going to want to gently nudge the twining in as tight and as snug to the center of this intersection as possible. And ignore that little end on that one weaver. And gradually twine, work your way around all of these. And when you start to grab them together, you can take your spoke weight off and rotate it so that the part you're weaving is facing away from you. And I'm going to take the uppermost weaver around to the right and under the next spoke, the next purple spoke. Slowly rotate it. Take the uppermost weaver, move it around and underneath the next spoke. Rotate it. Take the uppermost weaver, move it around under the next spoke, and so forth all the way around. When you get around once, it should look like this. It should look like that. And then just keep going so that you do 2 full rows around. When you finish, it should be nice and snug into the middle with 2 rows around like this. And the first weaver that you went to the back, just kind of cut that off, overhanging a little bit. And then the second weaver, I'm going to cut the end off, and I'm going to just feed that through and under the prior row to kind of lock it in place and get it out of my way. So I'm just going to feed it in like that. And that should hold it in place while you start to weave. And then when you bend these up around your mold, and the mold is just this bottle, I'm going to bend these up like this with the oval side of the weaver facing out. And I'm going to put a rubber band around this. Before you start weaving your side weaver, if you see these little ends poking out, just let them poke out for a while and leave them alone until you start getting the side weaving going. You're putting the rubber band down close to the bottom just to anchor these spokes, and you want to spread the spokes equidistant, running parallel up the side of the bottle. And then you're going to soak a flat oval weaver, 1/4 inch or 3/11/64. And what we want to do is taper the end down to a point so it's not a big bump as we start weaving around. So all I do is take about 6 inches down and just cut a gradual taper to this weaver. So So it's like that, goes to a point. And then I'm going to start to weave, place it under one of my spokes, and start going to the right, going over and under each spoke, going over one spoke, under the next spoke, over, under, and do several rows around. Now I've done 3 rows around so far, going to the right, and then what I'm going to do is remove the rubber band, pull that off the bottom, and then slide this weaving down as far as you can. Just start tucking it down first row, and then second row and third row, all the way down to the base weaving. Slide it all the way down and push up on the spokes as you're doing that. Pull up on the spokes and push down on the weaving until it's all snug down near the bottom like that. Get it down as snug as you can towards that bottom of the bottle, pulling up on the spokes. And then you're all set to keep weaving. Hold your hands on the side like this and control it, and keep it anchored tight to the bottle with your left hand, and with your right hand, just pull it over each spoke and go over, under, like this. And just keep going. This is continuous weave, and you can keep going round and round and round like this. And since there's an odd number of spokes, you don't have to do start, stop weaving every row. You can just keep going round and round and round because it switches to the opposite over, under after every row. So just keep going round and round and round. And as you get further up the side of the bottle, gradually, once you cover all the way up the bottle, slide the bottle up slowly to build your way up and weave all the way up until you're about 3 to 4 inches from the top. As you're weaving up the side, periodically adjust your spokes and slide them from side to side and make sure that they're parallel going straight up, and make sure that they're equidistant with each other, that the spaces between each of the spokes is roughly the same. There's that odd spoke, so they're not going to be exactly the same, but you want them to be close and you want them to be parallel and not overlap with each other. And then keep making sure that your weaving is tight here and there's no spaces between the rows. When you run out of length on your weaver and you come to the end, you can add a new weaver by overlapping. So what you want to do is wherever your weaver ends, the last spoke that it went under, you want to insert your new weaver end just under that spoke and then overlap the two weavers so that you're hiding the end underneath that spoke, and then continue to the right, going over, under, and the 2 weavers may overlap for like 1 or 2 spoke space distances, if you can see underneath to see the way they overlap there. But just take the new weaver and just keep on going. And just overlap that 1 or 2 spokes distance, and then keep on weaving all the way up, slowly sliding your bottle up as you go. And now I've already come around, and that's where my overlap join was. And you can see it sort of just hides right into the weaving. Earlier I said weave all the way up until there's 3 or 4 inches left, but I lied to you. I want you to weave up until you reach a height of about 7 inches on your weaving. See, about 7 inches. And then take your scissors and taper this down 5 or 6 inches and weave that all the way through. So I've tapered my end, and I'm just going to weave this tip, the end of it, all the way around, over, under, until the little last tip goes in as far as you can get it. And then when you're done with that, then you pull your bottle out and then soak the spokes, and I'll show you how to weave the rim. So on the side opposite of where your tiny end ended, so the other side, you want to take each spoke and then about 1 inch high, bend it out and in front of the spoke to its right and behind the next spoke and down at an angle like that. Then take the next spoke and bend it down at an angle to the right and in front of the next spoke and behind the second spoke, like that. And then just work your way around, taking each spoke, bending it out and down in front of its neighbor to the right, and then behind the next one out. And keep bending them down in front of one and behind the next. Down in front of the next one and behind the next one. Down in front of, now when you get around, you're going to go behind the spoke, in front of the next spoke, excuse me, and you have to weave it in behind the starting spoke. You have to do a little bit of contortion, but weave it in behind, so it goes, each spoke goes in front of one and behind the next, and then this last one has to go in front of this one and behind the next one and out. And once you get them all in place, then you can kind of fold them down a little bit like this. Just pull them down lightly to the right and fold it down so they're all about the same distance high, and it's all like a snug weave. And I'm folding down with my finger while I'm pulling right on the end of the spoke piece. And just do that until it feels like it's setting down snug all the way around and it's all the same distance high. And I go around a few times of working it down. Because they start to snug themselves down. And you want to bend that top thing and just give it a good crease when you get it down in the place. Then once that's all in place, pinch and fold the top where you know the fold, where you want the fold to be. And then with your scissors, go at an angle and cut a decorative end on it like this. Not too close in because you want it to stick out and not pull back through. And you want it to have a little bit of a decorative pointed edge. Cut your little long tail off if you got one. And give it just a little bit of a pull out, just slightly. And there's your basket, all ready to go.